Make sure that when you use a viewfinder, you're always putting this dot at the same spot in your still life whenever you go back to look at your still life through the viewfinder. For instance, I'm keeping this blue point about halfway up my pumpkin, right on the left or the right side of my pumpkin. So every time I look at the still life through the viewfinder, I'm going to make sure that I put this dot in the same place. If you'll notice, the outside edge of this pumpkin, when I place the dot, is just crossing the dot, but it's keeping to the left of this center line. Okay? So when I go and draw it on my paper, you'll see I've kept that line just to the left of the center line. And where that dot is right here. Okay? When I go back to my still life, I'm going to set up my dot where I've always put it, halfway up the biggest pumpkin on the right hand side of it. And now I'm going to look at this line here and see that it connects and goes right through. If I'm placing the dot right on the edge of my pumpkin, it goes right through the stem of that medium-sized pumpkin. Okay? So on your paper, you'll see it goes right through the stem. That's where I started that pumpkin. Okay? And really what I want you to do is concentrate on the outside edges of each shape. Don't worry about those lines that segment the pumpkin. I just want you to worry about getting each pumpkin where it should be and in proportion. Okay? Now the lines of the viewfinder, these black lines, crosshairs, will help you get proportions if you find out where each pumpkin that you're drawing intersects those lines. Okay? The edges of your paper can also be used. So if you notice that this pumpkin right here goes off the paper, right about there, underneath that black line. So if you look at my paper, it goes off the paper right there. Okay? And lastly, again, put your dot back where you always put it in the still life. Find out where pumpkins intersect this midline all together. Okay, so it goes right through, keep that lined up, goes right through that smaller pumpkin to the right of it. The majority of that pumpkin is here. Okay, but if I use the stem really goes from the center of the pumpkin out. So if I use the stem of that, I can see that it goes right through the tip of that curved part of the stem. And if you look, alright, so I'm a little bit off, but it gets proportions down, okay? So that way, I can set up my still life in proportion, using cropping, okay? Every time I go back, I'm going to place that dot right where I had it the first time, okay? You also notice that I decided to leave out this pumpkin here, and that's okay. If you have pumpkins you really can't see a whole lot of, and you think it's going to throw the picture off, leave them out. Hopefully this was helpful.